Guys, how are we doing today? So we're a day late. I'd say we're $1 short, but let's be real, this channel's always missing something. Guys, this Tuesday was special. Not only were we talking about anxiety, but we ended up fighting anxiety in a really awesome way. And honestly, it's probably the number one way to deal with it. But before we get into that, let's talk about anxiety. Let's talk about what it is. Let's talk about how it affects you. And here's the short, simple version. Anxiety is any sort of doubt that you have. Anxiety is that thing sitting in the back of your head saying, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do this, or that's not the right way to do this, or I can't do this, or basically it's can't. Anxiety is can't. But anxiety is, it's not something to easily overcome, but it is something that you can overcome. And I say this because, again, personal experience, I can vouch that you can get over it. Sure, there's still things that bother me, there's still things that get to me, but the short of it is there are things you can do to minimize and to bring it down. Point in case. This last Tuesday, we had someone make a joke about making things happen to the point where I would have had to shave my head because of, a specific goal. And I'm not going to lie, that had my heart beating fast. I mean, I was all over the place on that one. But when you take a second and think about it, it's up here. And guys, I'm not making short change on any sort of mental illness or any sort of disability based on over analytics or anything like that. No, that's an entirely separate high end part of anxiety. I mean, keep in mind, guys, there's stuff that you can control and there's stuff that you can't control, and the anxieties definitely falls in that category of it goes both ways. It really, really does. I don't want you guys to think that I'm shortchanging that by any means, because there definitely gets to be a point where you can't control it on your own, and you do have to seek professional help. And for those of you that these other techniques don't work, I highly and strongly suggest you go do that. Seek a healthcare professional. Seek an actual seek a specialist in the area, because there's only so much that you can do without getting to there's only so much you can do without getting the chemical imbalances fixed that can really, really screw things up long term. Now, I had made a point on Tuesday to talk about how excuse me. I made a point on Tuesday to talk about how anxiety is really there's a good portion of it that can be summed up with product of environment, product of how you were conditioned to think. And excuse me, I don't know what's going on. This is the third time I've tried recording this right now, and I still have this tickle back here. While you're growing up, you're always taught to think things through, to think about your actions and think about how they work and how things are going to, affect you. But part of having that ingrained into you from the start is you start to overanalyze every little thing. Well, and then you factor in things like lack of confidence and or, any sort of bullying or anything like that you may have experienced growing up. And it just keeps piling up, and it keeps adding to this top end of, this emotional pile. And there's no easy way to just kind of shove it aside and walk through. But just like any other problem, if you can identify it and you can see it coming, or you can recognize the signs of it happening, it makes it a lot easier for you to go, okay, hold up. I know what's happening. Let's try and get our handle on this. There are always going to be situations in which you cannot control, okay? And I understand the overthinking. I understand the problem with wanting to control the outcome of these situations, wondering how things are going to work with your job, or the promotion coming up, and school can be an issue, and worrying about this, that, and the other stuff that are coming. But what it boils down to is you can control how you react to it. You don't have to let it overtake your train of thought. And there are thousands of different gurus that'll tell you thousands of different techniques to try and to kind of calm everything down. But there's one thing that has always worked for me, and this works not for everybody, but it did work very, very well for a member of my community this week. And it completely derailed Tuesday Talks, don't get me wrong, but it did so in a way that was more than acceptable and welcomed, because I know the humor that he needed, that we were putting out that day, was perfect to help him get through this situation, this mental block that he had. So what I want you guys to really focus on is trying to identify what really causes your overactive thoughts, your anxiety, your palpitations, all of this stuff. I want you to focus on that. I want you to figure out what it is that causes those. And if you notice it happening, I want you to breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe. It sounds so simple, and I understand how hard it is, but that breathing is so key. And this goes more this encompasses more than just the mental aspect of it. This encompasses the physical side of it too, because when you slow yourself down and you force yourself to breathe, you put more oxygen into your body. Okay, with more oxygen into your body, your brain processes information better. When you process information better, you're able to think a little bit clearer. So when you notice these things start happening, when you start feeling that tension, when you start feeling that shortness of breath, when things are really starting to hit that shitstorm, just breathe. Think about inhaling and exhaling, and just focus on that for a little bit. 30 seconds, a minute, take 5 minutes if you need to. When you start having panic attacks, they always hand you a paper bag and tell you to breathe into that. It's not because, you're breathing back in recycled air. No. They tell you to do that because you start focusing on the bag expanding and contracting. That's what causes you to calm down. You're focused on this. Your body's actually breathing more, which means that you're putting more oxygen into your bloodstream. In turn, your head starts to calm down a little bit. So when you start feeling this stuff coming on, guys, I want you to breathe. In fact, I want you to breathe constantly. Anytime you're stressed, anytime you're anxious, anytime you're feeling overburdened or underappreciated or anything, just breathe. Just breathe. It's going to help out in so many ways, okay? Once you've started breathing, the thing that works best for me, the thing that works best for my community so far, is find a little bit of humor in the situation. You got a big test coming up. That's a lot to focus on. But if you breathe and then start laughing about something that has happened in the class, you're going to start thinking, okay, maybe it's not so bad. And then you keep breathing, and you're going to think about it on that time that the teacher made a mistake on that math problem and you were the one to be able to fix it. Or they made a mistake on the math problem and there was nothing that could be done about it, but everybody noticed it and everybody had fun with it. By the time you start getting to that point, you're going to start realizing that, okay, this is in my head. I can do this. I can do this. When you see the humor in it, you're going to start to smile. When you start smiling, you're going to start thinking more positive thoughts. It's kind of crazy how well this works, guys. And I'm not just, blowing sunshine up your ass here. I'm telling you because I've been through these situations. I've been in this position where I can't stop thinking about everything that has to get done. And in order for me to bring myself down, I gotta find the humor in the situation. So every life problem, everything that would cause some sort of overload, I've found a way to just kind of, okay, this is kind of funny, but how do we do this? It's not easy. It's not something that you can just flip a switch and do. And I know we say that every week, but that's because the stuff that we're doing here, guys, it's not easy. It's not flippable. It's not something that you can just toss it aside and be done with it. So, you really kind of have to work through it one day at a time. Okay? With that being said, guys, there's also the option, the idea that stuff like this can be biological, which means that when you're not taking care of yourself, you run the risk of elevating these things happening. Okay? Eat right, sleep, drink enough water, and do some exercise every day. I don't care if you're getting out and walking down to the end of the driveway and back up a couple of times. Getting yourself to physically feel better is really going to limit the number of anxiety issues that you have. The reason for it is, again, biological. Your body is putting more oxygen into your system. It's taking in the things that it should, and it's going to, in a long term, really affect your mental process and mental ability. So you're going to be able to think things through a lot clearer when your body functions properly. Think about it this way. You do not do your best if you don't sleep. You got to be able to sleep. Know what works for you. You don't do your best if you don't feed your body. If your body doesn't have the proper nutrition, it does not grow. Think of plants. Plants, if you're not watering them enough, if they're not getting the right amount of sunshine, they kind of wither and they die. Your mind, your brain, your body, it's all the same thing. You have to be able to take care of it all in order for it to function properly. Anxiety is one of those symptoms that you can get a handle on. For the most part, there are always exceptions to the rule, of course. There's always exceptions to the rule. And then, like I said earlier, guys, in those places, in those situations, I definitely urge you to seek help, because there is crippling anxiety, there is a mental disorder, there is some mood issues with that you really can't solve on your own, no matter how much you try. And those aren't fun to deal with. So definitely seek those out if you can. When you start taking care of your body, things are going to start coming to you easier. As content creators, those on Twitch and on YouTube and things like that, you know that when you have a deadline to meet, if you don't feel like you're going to meet it, you start like overworking and, really pushing into things. And when you do that, you get real anxious, you get really, really stressed out about it. You tend to do less work because you make more mistakes, therefore you have to go back and continually fix those mistakes. It's smarter. It's better for you. It's better for all of your projects. It's better for you in the long term if you take a step back and breathe. Find the humor and give yourself a timeout. Okay? When you do this, things are going to start to come more naturally. You're not going to make those little costly time errors. All right? You're not going to do the stupid little things that you could have avoided because you were rushing too fast. Okay? You take the time, you slow down, give yourself a timeout, you're going to be able to think a little clearer. So you take this time out, right? You got this big project ahead of you. You got this thing that is just it's just hovering here over your head, right? It's just hovering. Take a time out. Breathe. Eat. Take a nap. Go for a walk. Get a big old bottle of water. And just take a moment. Okay? In doing so, you're going to set yourself up to succeed. All right? While you're sitting there on this timeout, think about this. Give yourself some credit because you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And if you're not where you're supposed to be, you're not where you want to be, relax and plan out what you need to do. I have a calendar up here on my wall. You can't see it right here. But this calendar lists exactly what I need to do each day. It's not a dream board, but it is a workable goal sheet. And each day has a goal that I need to complete in order to get to my final destination. Are there days that I'm anxious about all that? Oh, hell yeah, there definitely are. But I also know that if I remember to look back at what I have done, give myself credit for that, everything else starts to come back down. It starts, getting to that acceptable point again. There's no shortcut in any of this. There's no shortcut to how to properly do this. Every person is going to be a little different. The things that trigger your anxiety, your overactive thoughts, things like that, they're going to be completely different than mine. And they're going to be completely different than our best friend. And they're going to be completely different than their mom. And just like finding what motivates you, you have to figure out what sets you off and then figure out what it takes to alleviate that. I mean, we can keep running through all these different things, but what it really boils down to, guys, the simple little things are: breathe, take care of yourself, and just give yourself a break. Things are going to slow down. You're going to be able to think a little clearer, and you're going to be able to work through whatever problems are arising in front of you. Anxiety is something that you're never going to get out from underneath, okay? There's always going to be a little bit of it here and there about something or another. Knowing that is half the battle. Because now you can prepare for it. Now you can remember to breathe. Now you can remember to take care of yourself. Now you can start seeing these problems for what they are, not what you think they are. All right? Guys, I can't thank y'all enough for listening on these. We're going to keep coming back with more things, more techniques, more stuff for you. And it's going to continue to grow. Always remember that there are people for you to talk to. There are things you can do to work through any situation that you have. And give yourself a break. Don't be over hard. Don't overthink it. Let yourself fail here and there. Failure's the best teacher. Guys, next week we're going to have another awesome guest. We're going to have some really, really good ideas coming through. A new format, if it works out correctly. And a new topic. Something I think we're all going to be really appreciative of. Correction, not next week. Not next week. The following week. Guys, thank you so much for coming out. And we will see you on Tuesday Talks. Bye.